Hi and good evening to all the audience. Today we are going to present about natural hazards in Vietnam. Our team consists of four members, which is me, Nurul Humaira Najihah binti Adnan, Nurul Zliana binti Rizman, Nur Christina Balkis binti Azlimi, and Nurul Ashira binti Zaini. Natural hazards are extreme natural events that can cause loss of life, extreme damage to property, and disrupt human activities. Some natural hazards, such as flooding, can happen anywhere in the world. Other natural hazards, such as tornadoes, can only happen in specific areas. Vietnam is considered one of the nations that are most vulnerable to natural disaster, with its 3,440-kilometer coastline and S-shaped topography and a unique location in Southeast Asia monsoon zone. Vietnam is vulnerable to a wide range of natural disasters, including typhoon, tropical storms, flood, drought, saltwater intrusion, landslide, and wildfires. Calculation shows that around 28,000 square kilometers of Vietnam have average wind speed of 7 meters per second to 9 meters per second at a height of 60 meters. This caused most of the population in Vietnam clustered in the coastal and low-lying delta areas, which is more easily impacted by natural hazards. In this study, we are going to present about hazards that often happen in Vietnam, which is flood, landslide, and earthquake.
There are four categories of natural hazard, which are chemical, physical, biological, and psychosocial. For physical hazard, it refers to the hazard that caused by the natural physical process of the earth that can cause harm to animals, humans, and property. For example, in Sapa town in the province of Lao Chai, a 20-meter high mountain collapsed due to the heavy rain caused by the circulation of Typhoon Yagi and triggered the landslide that hit an area about 100 meters from the mountain base. It was home to 26 people in 4 houses. Due to the landslide, 15 people were buried under mud and debris, while 11 people managed to escape. The rescue teams had recovered 6 bodies, and 9 people were injured. Furthermore, biological hazard is biological substances that threatens the health of other living things. Vietnam suffers from many different types of natural hazard, including floods. For instance, two storms that hit central Vietnam broke 6 times higher than average rainfall, causing floods to 163,000 houses and forcing 90,000 people to evacuate their home. Due to this, at least 102 people were reported dead or missing. This flood also reported 25 people were diagnosed to have dengue fever. The residents not only have to face the damage, but also disease after every flood. Next, the third hazard is psychosocial hazard. This hazard was the effect of mental or emotional instability due to the environmental disaster that happened to an individual or community. For example, the Central Highlands province in Kontum was recorded 21 earthquakes, and the largest earthquake has ever happened was on that day, as the risk level was categorized as level 2. It has caused some damage to public buildings and also residential homes and raised concerns among locals. The director of the Institute of Geophysics indicates that earthquakes are expected to continue hitting Kontum soon. The resident might face stress, fear, and anxiety about future disaster if it was not taken seriously. That's all from me.
Now, I will talk about causes and impact of floods. Flooding often happens due to the combination between natural and human factors. Natural factors such as monsoon and typhoon season, while human factors like deforestation and poor drainage management. Monsoon and typhoon season have contributed to the flood in Vietnam because monsoon bring heavy rainfall during their season between June to November. Due to the rainfall, floods are more likely to happen as it will increase river levels and cause widespread riverine floods. Typhoon cause floods because they can let out large volume of rain in a short time and also raise the river levels. In other words, monsoon and typhoon will reduce the land's power to absorb water as it is in large volume of rain in order to prevent floods from happening. For human factors, deforestation is actually related with the natural factors as forest has the role to manage water resources, minimizing surface runoff to allow it to infiltrate into groundwater and reach the aquifer. As deforestation is still happening widely, the forest has lost its ability to perform its role and lead to flooding in Vietnam. Moving to the impacts of floods, floods are giving many impacts toward Vietnam, especially in the economic sectors. One of the main impacts of the flood is the threat on agriculture and food security. This is proven because almost 30,000 hectares of agricultural land was harmed and 90 metric tons of food supplies and seed have been lost. Because of the frequency of floods in Vietnam, sources of food based on agriculture are lost. It takes almost 2 to 4 months to recover the agricultural land. People are losing their main source of living in their comfort zone. Other than that, floods also impact the infrastructure and the building there. Because of the frequency of floods, governments are facing many challenges about recovery costs as the repair process is very costly. Government need to streamline the budget allocation process for emergency reconstruction projects, both at the central and provincial levels, to minimize delays and uncertainties in mobilizing funds for medium-term reconstruction projects.
Next, landslides are a serious natural hazard in Vietnam, especially in mountainous and hilly areas. They happen when large amount of soil or rock suddenly move down a slope. There are two main causes of landslide in Vietnam, which is natural causes and human activities. Heavy rainfall is the main natural causes. During the rainy season, especially from June to September, continuous rain can make the ground soft and unstable. When too much water enters the soil, it becomes saturated and heavy and can no longer hold together. This leads to the ground breaking apart and sliding downhill, especially on steep slopes. However, human activity also play a big role in making landslide worse. For example, when people cut down trees, the roots that used to hold the soil together are removed. This makes the land weaker. In addition, when houses and roads are built on hillside, the natural structure of the slope is damaged. This can cause cracks in the soil which allow water to seep in. Over time, especially during prolonged rainfall, these cracks grow bigger and deeper. As a result, the risk of a landslide increases significantly. One clear example is the damage caused by road construction. In places like the Pas Pau Lot region, the building of roads has disturbed natural slope and contributed to frequent landslides. This shows how the development without proper planning can increase disaster risk. The impact of landslides are very serious. They can cause the sudden loss of human life and destroy home, road, farm, and fish pond. In remote areas, landslides make it harder for people to move around and get access to emergency help. One of the most tragic events was the Lang Nu landslide on 10 September 2024 in Bao Yen district. It was recorded as the worst landslide disaster in Vietnam history, killing 67 people and destroying 37 houses. Landslides also affect the southern part of Vietnam, especially in the Mekong Delta. This area is very important for agriculture and rice production. Each year, around 300 to 500 hectares of land are lost to landslide and erosion. This makes it difficult for farmers to grow crops like rice and fruit, and it also affects the economy since the Mekong Delta plays a key role in Vietnam rice export. In conclusion, landslides in Vietnam are caused by both natural and human factors. The combination of heavy rainfall and poor land management increase the risk. Lastly, earthquakes are also a natural hazard that can affect some areas in Vietnam. According to Dr. Nguyen Duan An, earthquake can happen for two main reasons, which is natural causes and human activities. Natural earthquakes happen when energy builds out along tectonic faults or volcanic activities. Even though Vietnam is not located on major fault lines like the Pacific Ring of Fire or the Mediterranean Himalayan zone, earthquakes still happen here, though they are usually not very strong. Some areas in Vietnam can feel stronger the most. For example, in Dien Bien was hit by strong earthquake in 1983 and 1985 with magnitude of 6.8 and 6.7. Apart from natural causes, some earthquakes in Vietnam are caused by human activities. In Con Plong district, the construction of hydroelectric dams has caused more earthquakes. Between 1903 and 2020, 33 earthquakes were recorded in this area. Dr. Nguyen explained that natural earthquakes happen because of energy built out, while earthquakes caused by human activities are often triggered by things like large dams. Even though earthquakes in Vietnam are not as strong as in other countries, they can still cause problems. The most common damage is to old buildings, which are more likely to collapse during an earthquake. Dr. Nguyen said that the past earthquake in Dien Bien causes little damage because there were not many buildings at that time. But today, a similar earthquake could cause much more damage due to more buildings and people in the area. Earthquake can also make people scared or anxious. People living in tall buildings, especially in cities like Hanoi, sometimes panic when they feel the shaking. In some cases, people think the shaking is caused by health problem like low blood pressure, and they run out of their home in fear. In conclusion, even though Vietnam is not in a major earthquake zone, both natural and human-made earthquake can still cause harm. It is important for people to be aware of the risk and be prepared for earthquake, especially as the country continues to grow.
Thank you, Ashira, for the presentation. Now I will continue for the next presentation, which is the challenges faced by the Vietnam government to overcome the issue of the natural hazard. So, Vietnam is now acknowledged as one of the countries that mostly has an impact on climate change every year. This includes natural hazard and extreme weather events. The government of Vietnam has created many policies to overcome the natural hazard. However, their government still face many challenges that make it hard to overcome the issue. The first challenges is rapid urbanization and poor planning. Rapid urbanization is one of the challenges that Vietnam government face in overcome the issue like floods and earthquakes, and also the landslide. Rapid urbanization and poor planning in Vietnam, especially like the city like Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City, has led to serious disaster risk that leads to floods and landslide. The fast growth of above drainage system and rapid urbanization needs to make a new space also lead to deforestation activity in the forest or mountainous area, making urban flooding and landslide more common. More buildings are being built, construction is unsafe, and flood from areas without proper planning, increasing the damage caused by natural hazard. Because of improper planning by some developers, give the government a hard time to minimize the impact of natural hazard in Vietnam. Additionally, the poor planning of the urban area also make the emergency infrastructure like planning ahead to minimize the injury because of the natural hazard. Natural hazard like earthquakes can cause damage to water treatment facilities, sewage system, and the hospitals. Poor planning makes this critical service often not built to withstand earthquake shock, leading to unnecessary consumptions and can expose the victim to disease like cholera or dengue. So we move to the second point. Second point, which is the high cost and low technical capacity. The geographical of Vietnam makes the government face the challenges to address natural hazards like earthquakes or the landslide. So, government geography mostly hilly and heavily forested. The difficulty of geographical management made the earthquake and landslide a high cost
for upgrading or rebuilding resulting infrastructure. In order to reduce the impact of this natural hazard, the structure like homes, schools, hospitals, or the bridge must be designed or rebuilt to withstand ground shaking or slab failure. This process make this process will make the infrastructure more adapted to earthquake and landslide. However, the process will require specialized earth engineering expertise, earthquake and landslide resistant design, and mostly there are high cost and material. Therefore, these upgrades come with significant monetary costs, which means it is difficult to overcome the natural hazards that happen in Vietnam, like flood, earthquake, and also landslide. So, as a result, many buildings lack reinforcement for earth-shattering events, heavy rainfall, and also not enough protection measures like retailing walls or drainage system. For the area, steep slope. The financial barrier contribute the hard works of the government to minimize the disaster losses, or as poorly built infrastructure collapse during natural events, further deepening poverty and delaying recovery. That's all for me. Let's move to the next slide. Next, I will continue with our recommendation. Based on our study, it is recommended that our government should adopt more strategic and informed approach to natural hazard. The government should pay attention to the certain area that is easily exposed to disaster that ensure disaster risk consideration. The government of Malaysia should include enforcing of land use laws that can prevent the construction in high-risk area and incorporating hazard assessment into infrastructure project in the future. Malaysia also should strengthen early warning system to prepare for natural disasters such as earthquakes, flooding, and landslide, or another natural hazard. Vietnam has made progress in modernizing its disaster information and early warning system by investing in advanced monitoring technologies, including seismic sensor, weather forecast tools, and satellite data integration. The system helps authorities to detect hazard early, analyze real-time data, and communicate warning quickly to us risk communication. Furthermore, Vietnam experience demonstrates the importance of community-based communication tactics, including using loudspeaker, SMS, and local language mobile apps to broadcast the alerts. Thank you. That's all from me.
Vietnam has useful lessons for Malaysia in handling natural disasters and often face problems like typhoons, floods, and landslide. But they have made progress by using better warning system, getting local people involved, and planning well. Even though they still face some problems like poor coordination, high costs, and not enough skilled workers. Malaysia also has similar natural disasters, so Malaysia can follow Vietnam good steps like using real-time warnings, making sure land use is controlled, and involving communities. To be ready for disasters, Malaysia needs to have clear plans and include everyone in the process. This will help save lives and protect buildings and support long-term development. That's all from us. Thank you.